Sharon's got that one.
Perfect.
All right, we'll begin with roll call.
Great. Let's go ahead and start with roll call.
Okay. Chair Gonzalez. Commissioner Davila.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Abraham.
Here.
Commissioner Kamer. Commissioner Johnson.
She's here.
Cammie Horn for Jeffrey Arndt.
Present.
Commissioner Alanis.
Here.
Commissioner Hinojosa.
Here.
And Commissioner Sanchez. All right.
All right. Do
We have a quorum, yes.
Very good. Let's go ahead and proceed with our Spanish interpretation. We could have the interpreter who is online go ahead and begin.
Buenas tardes para cualquier persona que necesite los servicios de interpretación puede ir al sitio web www.webex.com al teléfono, al número de reunión 1-415-655-0001 y el código de acceso es 2469-718-7587. La clave es vivienda. También está presentado en la diapositiva que tienen ahora en pantalla. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to the Housing Commission meeting today. As you can tell by my voice, or if you're seeing us on camera, I'm not former Councilwoman Gonzalez. I'm sitting in just presiding on their behalf, since they will be hopefully joining us via online. So let's go ahead and move on to the director's report, and let's get started.
Minutes.
Oh, minutes. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and
I should
public
probably follow my agenda.
Yeah. Public comment first, then minutes. I could
Okay.
also follow the agenda too. That might be helpful.
Great. All right. So let's go. Do we have anyone for public comment, please?
Sharon's going to play one speaker who called in and left a voicemail.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Susan Richardson, and I reside at 118 Carolina Street in District 1 of San Antonio. I called to comment on the agenda item number 5, and when we were I think the RFP scoring and CIA tool presentation took place. Meeting be included for school criteria as semantic for LIHEC applicants was repealed in 2016 and no longer required scoring there. Additionally, the pandemic effect on schools has skewed grading, especially when no state testing during 2019 or 2020 took place. On the community feedback slide, number 24, school rating was not listed, so I'm not exactly sure where that community feedback came from. And I understand that the DIA tool is only to be used for new rental housing production RFPs. So residents might need help in understanding how displacement will be scored for the rehabilitation, preservation of rental properties, along with the permanent supported housing projects. Since that word itself is actually in the RFP scoring criteria for both of them. There has been no mention of a required minimum score for any category on either the RFPs or the DIA tool. What would prevent an approval based on a total score, which could allow developers to ignore one or more categories completely. And I think that it's highly likely that gap funding requests will be a part of housing RFPs, so it would be helpful for residents to understand how projects are scored in that category. Will 20-point max be awarded to projects that meet the federal program guidelines, so as to receive state and local fiscal recovery funds, or to receive assistance from San Antonio Housing Trust based on the criteria in their tax credit partnership program? And finally, housing commissioners should be questioning why there's only 5 points being allotted for scoring of rental projects that are income-based that provide public housing. If the city of San Antonio is truly focused on affordability, the maximum number of points for such projects should be allotted. and affordability category, not just a measly 5 home. I thank you very much for the opportunity to voice my comment, and please give me a call back at 210-274-7980 should this comment not be clear enough to understand and read into the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else signed up to speak? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to approval of the minutes. So before we read the minutes, do we have I'll entertain a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as written. I'll move it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Okay, if not, then we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes for July 27th, 2022, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Minutes approved. Let's go on to item number 2, the director's report. I understand that Veronica, you'll be brief.
Yes.
All right.
Good morning, almost afternoon, commissioners. Thank you. We do have some items I want to brief you on today. We'll go over the very first item, which is a very high-level update on our housing bond. 3 of our housing bond RFPs were released on Friday. Thank you. There we go. So they were released on Friday as planned. That is the rental production, the rental rehab, and the homeowner production RFPs have all been released, and they are available online. We do have pre-submittal conferences scheduled for next week. I can't say too much more than that because there is communication restrictions in effect. So if you do have any questions, they are available online, and you would follow the instructions on the RFP directing any questions in writing to the purchasing department's contact person listed on each separate RFP. I want to also share a quick reminder for all of the commissioners to please be sure to complete the monthly trainings. So you do have a link in your email to these. Last month's training was an overview of board and commission rules, and these are all presented this month and last month and this month by the city clerk's office. This month's training is on running effective meetings. All of our entities are required to complete these, so please make sure you keep up with them monthly. And if you have any trouble accessing the trainings, please let our team know. We can help you get those accessed and completed each month.
Can there be a reminder set out of who has completed what to date for all the commissioners?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
I can't remember what I did.
I'm sure you're completely up to date.
I
You're
think
always
I
on
might
top.
be, but you
Yeah.
never know.
Our next update is on our homeowner rehabilitation application. So we do have the application open now through September 19th. We have 14, I think we added up one more, at least 14 in-person intake events. Our application is all online this year for the first time. Homeowners can go online, they can complete the application, uploading their documents. It's one application for any and all of our rehab programs. We will review them at the end of the application window, so it's not a first-come, first-served basis. So anytime between when it opened a couple of weeks ago and through September 19th, you can go online and complete that application. For any individual who needs assistance completing the application, like I mentioned, we have at least 14 in-person events throughout the city. There are 2 this week alone in all the different council districts. And we have...
Hi, if there's anybody online, go ahead and mute yourself. We do hear you. Okay, good.
Thank you. And we are providing in-person assistance. Our entire team is out there, at least 15 city staff plus some volunteers helping individuals complete their online application, get an email set up if they don't have one, scan and upload all of their documents, answer any questions. So we do have many, many in-person events. We also have 2 nonprofit partners that are also helping schedule one-on-one appointments so people don't have to go to our event and wait in line. They can set up a meeting with one of our partners and they can help walk them through and upload that process. Yes?
I'd just like to add that on September 8th, there's another one of these events at Igo Library up in District 8.
Thank you. Yes, I will put that up there on the screen. These are all the ones that are still yet to occur. And You're absolutely right, Commissioner Abraham. We do have one at IGO Library coming up, and we do have just a robust schedule. And again, there are two nonprofit partners. One of them is the Health Collaborative, and the other one is the UTSA West Side Center, and they have an office there off of Guadalupe Street where you can come in person and make an appointment there and help. So lots of resources for anyone who needs it. The application is open for about another month, so if you have any homeowners who need assistance or you have any questions, please just let our team know.
Commissioners, I just want to let you know that the marketing efforts that went into promoting this application process this time has been excellent. You know, the development, the collaboration, the way that Annie and her team have been going out into community, helping people fill out applications, answer questions, it's just been tremendous. And I'm not surprised. We've gotten a really great response from people. So I think I just want to mention, I think they should be commended.
Yeah, the team has been working really hard. I will note that last year in total, we received about 900 applications for our home rehab programs. About 2.5 weeks into our open window, we have received over 1,400 online applications. So people are aware, still open another month. I think we'll have a really strong response. So definitely a lot of need in the community. And our team, as you all know, we have housing bond dollars to help scale up our efforts, and we are already meeting with nonprofit partners to see how we can work with them because the need is so great. And we do have a strong team, but there's no way we can meet all of these homes alone. So we are now working with some nonprofits to see how we can partner with them and work together to meet the demand that's in the community. So, yes.
Other than continuing to pass the word out, is there anything the commissioners can do or the EEO subcommittee can do to help at these events? Or will we get in the way? Or?
No, we would love help. We're using UTSA has sent some students at a couple of these. We have at least 100 people every time that are showing up at our events. So anyone who is interested in coming and volunteering, even if it's for 2 or 3 hours, we could use the assistance just with kind of helping navigate homeowners. I think of it like the doctor's office, right? You have an appointment, but you can still wait an hour and a half, and just kind of moving from space to space, knowing kind of you're making progress is helpful for the homeowners to know, and individuals that kind of can help them with that process, help us manage, is great. So if you are interested in volunteering or any of our subcommittees, please let us know, and we can find an event and put you to work with our team. And thank you. We thank you for your help.
Okay, anyone else? And you were finished with your presentation?
Almost.
Okay,
Sorry.
keep going.
Almost. My last slide is on our upcoming event. So we do have our Neighborhood and Housing Services budget work session next Wednesday. It's at 2 p.m. in City Hall. And we also have a Planning and Community Development Committee meeting tomorrow. We'll be providing, Mark will actually lead that in partnership with the San Antonio Housing Trust and Opportunity Home SA. We'll have updates on the progress made on our SHIP effort and those partnerships and what we're all doing together to meet those goals. So that'll be a great item. And then we have our Removing Barriers Committee is meeting later today, and the Renter Solutions Subcommittee is meeting next week. And then finally, we have our Public Engagement and Outreach Subcommittee, which is working to schedule their next meeting. So lots of work happening, both with the Housing Commission and our department as we move a lot of our initiatives forward. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Nikki?
I do. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Monica. Quick question. The nonprofit that's working with you, did you say the Health Collaborative?
Yes.
Okay. When someone inquires about or fills out the application for rehabilitation, there is no immediate, instant denial or acceptance, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I've been getting a lot of, when I was posting it and promoting it, a lot of responses immediately saying, well, I don't qualify. And I'm like, that can't be possible. You could not have submitted it and waited, but I wanted just to confirm with you, there's no information listed that says, this is how you qualify immediately, right?
We do have on our website, AMI levels that are eligible for the program, for new roofs, there's a little bit different criteria, so we have that listed on the website. We are telling homeowners interested when they show up to the event. Like I said, we have a strong demand, so there can be a line, so we'll have a staff person who kind of goes down the line and says, did you bring all your paperwork? Do you meet these minimum criteria? Great, stay in line, take a number, we'll help you.
Okay, so is it a good thing to say apply anyway? Or should they just look at the AMI and say, yeah, I don't? Because I feel like that's kind of what they're looking at, and they're like, well, I just don't qualify. Should they still be encouraged to apply anyway?
I think they should apply because like our new roof program, you could be a veteran and qualify. You could be disabled and qualify. And I know all the programs kind of have different rules, so some people could get kind of lost in, well, is it AMI only? What if I'm a veteran? And like I mentioned, we are partnering with some nonprofits who help specific categories of individuals. So even if they don't perfectly meet our qualifications, we could have their information online, and we may be able to refer them to one of our nonprofit partners to get some assistance.
That's wonderful.
Commissioner, we're also trying to do some work with faith communities, churches that have an interest in maybe like a roof project or a smaller minor repair. So to Veronica's point, if for some reason they don't qualify through this program, we have them in the database now, so we can connect them as a possibility. So I would encourage people.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Believe it or not, that we done.
I have just an additional clarifying question for you. Is it that people are showing up to outreach events and don't feel like it's that they're
I
reviewing
think
the
they're going to
qualifications?
they're going to the website or they're scanning the Q code. And somewhere, I guess they saw what qualifies you and they're like, well, I don't qualify.
Okay.
Because I'm getting a response once I put it up, 2-3 minutes, or I don't qualify. And I'm like, that can't be possible.
No.
You could not have done your application. They told you that already. So I've been saying, just go ahead and apply anyway, but I think they're discouraged at that point. So I just wanted to make sure I am doing the right thing by still encouraging them versus applicants coming in that off the cuff, you know, they don't qualify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Before we go forward with any comments, just want to, for the record, let everyone know Amanda's here for the record.
Got it.
Check her
Thank
in.
you.
Okay, any other comments or discussion on the director's report? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Item number 3, please. Subcommittee updates, and I think we're going to start with Commissioner Davila. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. If you could provide us with your subcommittee update.
Sure. So just for some context for this agenda item, in the Renter Solutions Subcommittee, Commissioner Johnson and I were talking about how... Can you hear me okay? I'm hearing some interference.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. All right. It must be just on my end then. Commissioner Johnson and I were talking about how are we going to report back to the full commission what we hear from the public at the Renter Solutions Subcommittee meeting, and ensure that information is passed on and what we're hearing from the public is brought to the full commission. And we talked about having the Renter Solutions Subcommittee report out, and then knowing that the Public Engagement and Outreach Committee is also very active right now with several things. Our committees are really working committees, and it makes sense to have each committee chair provide an update at each commission meeting for the full Housing Commission. That way everybody is kind of in the loop with what's happening at the subcommittee level. So with that, I do want to give Commissioner Johnson an opportunity to, from her perspective, she and I are co-chairs of the Renter Solutions Subcommittee, share what we heard at the first Solutions Subcommittee meeting that was open to the public.
We had some disgruntled comments, one of which people felt that our name didn't match what they were given when they came to the meeting. There were people there ready to talk about the things that they were experiencing as renters, not having water, landlords that were not fixing major maintenance issues. And what they wanted at that time was immediate gratification that you're going to fix this, you're going to contact my landlord, or you're going to give me an answer I can walk away with. Reminding them of what our actual charge was not sufficient enough. Letting them know that we were taking down this information, making sure we took complete notes was not enough. And so what we talked about was making sure that we have resources available that can point them and direct them to areas that could assist them with whatever those issues were, but as well as how are we going to make sure that you all know that these are what the renters are facing, this is what they're going through, and these are the issues that they're having, and what is it that we can do for them, because we are the commission and then we are the subcommittee. And so the thing that we came up with is, after we have our meetings, kind of everyone in one thread, putting in what they heard, putting in what they got, putting in what their takeaway was, and then compiling a report that we could give, because we need to let you all know what's going on. A couple of them did make that statement, how is the Housing Commission going to find out what we're dealing with? And so this is our way of making sure that we bridge all of these things together. So there is transparency, there's complete communication, and you all know what's going on. And if there's something that we can do or something that we can form a report to give to the city council, we want to do something, because one of the things that we heard before and after the meeting is are y'all just another committee and you're not going to do anything? And so that was what we came up with.
Can I add to that? Because I think, so the other day we had conversations with folks about that too, in a neighborhood, just sporadic, wasn't like planned or anything, but one thing I noticed, and I was going to send an email to y'all anyway, we don't have our pictures on the commission website anymore, so people literally didn't believe me that I was on the commission. I don't know if y'all run into that, but that would help with like community validation, right? Especially in communities where they feel like they're not being heard. So we could add that. And then another thing is that we work with city council. So I think showing people that, which might not reflect on the website either, but just in conversations, talking to people, being really frustrated. And some of the stuff is out of our hands, but also like, I think to your point, like how do we raise those issues to the commission, and then also explain like high level, this is how we work with city council. Basically, like, we're not your enemy, right? We're trying to like work with you, we're trying to elevate your concerns. Because there are a lot of concerns, and if you're taking the time, especially y'all in PEO, to build that trust and relationships, you don't want to mess it up either. You want to come back with action items, and I don't know how we do that. Like, I don't know how you go back to those specific folks who share concerns with you if they don't come back to any of their meetings that they feel heard. So I don't know if we have a solution for that either yet.
I personally think it's an issue of also understanding what their rights are, what their resources are, really, rights and resources. And if we have those materials available to provide to them on rights and resources, and you can call the Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid if you have issues, you can call X, Y, and Z, or here are some solutions there. If we have that kind of prepackaged ready to go, when there is that point of contact needed, we can immediately respond to that.
And that's exactly what we were discussing. We had these at the entrance sign-in table, but a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They want to get in, they want to talk, they want to hear what's going on. So the suggestion is to put them on the tables where they're sitting. So if Mark is telling us he's having an issue with X, Y, and Z, and we know that that's legal aid or that's, it just slipped my mind. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. That we can say right there on your table, there's a form there with the number you can contact. It gives them something to, it makes them feel heard, and it gives them something to walk away with and some type of action that they can take, because it was really disheartening to see people come hoping for something and feel like they didn't get anything and walk away.
I want to give props to Nikki and Kristen and Sharon and James for facilitating that meeting. They anticipated that a lot of this would come up, right? So they had, kind of a dialogue that they could read at the top of the meeting that would communicate to folks, like, we want you to come and share your stories with us. And we want you to understand that, we aren't necessarily like a judicial body, right? And so I think that was helpful.
some of the improvements that we are making going forward are actually having staff from our housing stability team, Connie and Joe, right there. So it's more than just, here's a resource sheet. Here's an actual person who can walk you through how to access those resources, talk you through what it might look like to take advantage of those. And grateful to Mark, too, for connecting us with Liz Cruz, who is a social worker that is doing some great work from us on the home repair side. And her experience is based in trauma-informed care. So actually later today we have an initial meeting to talk about how we might incorporate trauma-informed care elements into that subcommittee meeting and, hopefully far beyond it.
So we are definitely working and trying and improving. We take all suggestions. That was our first in-person and open public meeting. So we learned a lot. We had a lot of takeaways, and we're working. So thank you to our NHSD staff as well.
I was talking with Commissioner Johnson beforehand. I just want to echo and just affirm that every meeting there's an action that happens, so that people walk out of the room and they feel like, all right, this wasn't a waste of time. But either there was something like a global level action happened, or I walked away with information I didn't have. And so there'll be a lot of different ways to try that. So I would encourage you to keep experimenting and trying things. And I appreciate that y'all are willing to dive in and realize that not all things are going to work, but you're willing to try.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davila, do you have anything else to add?
I just want to thank Nikki for giving the report and echo exactly what she said, that we're working to make this a productive meeting and make it worthwhile for the folks that show up to share their concerns, because a lot of the people that we're hearing from are experiencing some really awful situations, and we want to make sure that they get the resources that they need. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to you, Pete.
Great. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and recognize Nikki again, since Nikki's going to be doing our report out for the Removing Barriers Committee. Nikki?
Thank you. So here are a few highlights from our June, July, and some August updates as well. Concerning Pembroke, the discussion and advocacy efforts aimed at increasing and supporting accessibility and housing choice for San Antonians living in residential assisted living homes. The RBSC, which is the subcommittee, members elevated the need to promote a whole host of living options, including permanent supportive housing, housing with supportive services like residential assisted living homes, also referred to as assisted living facilities, and accessible ADUs. ADUs. God, y'all like acronyms. For San Antonio, as a result, the RBCS identification of this, as a result of the RBCS's identification of this issue, commissioners may recall that the HC wrote a letter of support and will be briefed with an update on that today. I don't have my glasses. UDC amendments, progress, and next steps. So for the Zoning Commission on Tuesday, July the 5th, the Zoning Commission formally considered the Housing Commission's related UDC amendments, and after a first failing vote of 4-3, the amendments passed upon a second vote of 7-0. The Zoning Commissioners made a few amendment changes in order to secure passage, and here are those changes. To amend the owner-occupied language to clarify that the ADU does not need to be removed in the event the owner is no longer occupying the property. Add language that ADUs, Lord, I need my glasses, used as short-term rentals must comply with section 35-374.01. Add a maximum size of 1,600 square feet for ADUs. This compromise was viewed as acceptable by the Removing Barriers co-chair. As far as the Planning Commission, on Wednesday, July the 27th, the Planning Commission formally considered the Housing Commission's UDC amendments. All amendments went on consent except for the ADU-related items, which were pulled for individual consideration. And the tree preservation amendment originally offered by the Housing Commission will be instead addressed administratively. The meeting was well attended by members of Tier 1 Neighborhood Coalition and supporters of the amendments. The amendments received 11-1. Commission, I'm about to say this name so wrong. Oh, don't worry about the name? Okay, great. Voting from planning commissions with support from Councilmember Courage. Planning Commission passed all the amendments with the changes made by the Zoning Commission. Next steps will be the UDC amendments will go before Planning and Community Development Commission tomorrow. If successful, UDC amendments will then go, will then go to council for vote, potentially on October the 18th, November the 3rd. RBSC is hopeful that the amendments will continue to gain progress through the remaining steps and will continue to advocate for swift passage of the UDC recommendations. Remaining projects for RBSC. The application and selection process, in conjunction with the chair and Housing Commission, the RBSC will support the FY23 application and selection process of new members. The RBSC is charged with recommending improvements to the UDC and other city process to facilitate more affordable housing development in San Antonio. And the subcommittee will offer recommendations and advise the HC on the following goal. Recommend improvements to the UDC and other city processes to facilitate more affordable housing development. Expected application process to begin in September, with the appointments occurring after the adoption of the UDC amendments. And application discussions will occur today at today's meeting, and more details can be provided at the next Housing Commission meeting. Go, Nikki. Go, Nikki. It was like reading the tiniest, but that is the end of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding our Removing Barriers Committee? I know we have our meeting like right after this one, pretty much. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. Do we have any other subcommittee reports or updates?
I can give you something on the public engagement and outreach committee anyways, is that number one is that our contact person is Siboney Dias, which we're very, very happy about. And also had a great meeting with Mark and her and Sarah and several other people with NHSD. And we've talked about, and Mark said that he would kind of like to supercharge what PEO is doing and get us even more involved. And I take it as a personal challenge is that I think the worst thing you can do is have volunteers and not give them some type of direction or something to do. So what I've asked NHSD or Siboney and her folks to do is to give our subcommittee a calendar of events that are upcoming and as quickly as possible so that we can move as quickly as possible. Because part of the charge of our subcommittee is that 1/5 or 20% of San Antonians don't have access to internet with a phone or computer or whatever. So we have to get the word out quickly, so as soon as we can know about it, the better. We're also going to hit on a little bit with Siboney later with the public information campaign that's there, and that the whole commission will be involved in particular the PEO subcommission as well. So I don't want to take anything away from that. And I guess what I want to do is as soon as I get that calendar, I'm going to put that out to the volunteers and say, okay, which would you like to do? And then get the feedback and make sure they're covered. Our PEO subcommittee people are very responsive. As an example, just the other day, I asked them to, I need somebody to cover an event coming up with Cops Metro because I can't be there for that. I got 2 responses almost immediately that will be covered. So I'm very proud of the response that we get. So give them some work, and they'll do the work. So, and like I say, I take that as a personal responsibility, and also getting agendas out as early as possible as to what we're going to discuss in our meetings. They've also responded back to, we had to change our meeting date, or we're working on our meeting date, and everybody has now responded as to changing the date. And it's important because we're now going to meet every month instead of every other month, because there's just too long a gap in there. So we want to be even more active. So that's about it for now, anyway. So.
Any questions for Abe? I do have one question, but I want to let folks know. Okay. Do you see that there might be a connection between what y'all do in that committee as to the need that you saw in the renter subcommittee? Because there was a tremendous amount of public engagement that came to that last meeting. Is there something maybe that there could be coordinated effort on helping respond to that large influx of folks? Do you see that as a potential opportunity?
We actually had him at a meeting before we had our first public meeting, because we wanted to get his input. We wanted to get how we can get the word out. And so Abe, I know I'm on the same committee with him too, but Abe gave a lot of great suggestions. And so if they're interested with us coordinating together for something, I don't know if we have time for this next meeting, but that would be wonderful. And then maybe the public engagement can also get with Liz. Is her name? Liz as well, since she's going to be doing the trauma-informed training and talk. That would probably work great for the public engagement committee as well. But
And we hate to put words in your mouth, Abe, so definitely want you to respond to that.
I'll just say yes. Wherever we can help out, we want to be there. We want to get the word out, and you know, our mission is grassroots. You know, we want to you know, get some type of a paper form and get it out. I've personally kind of taken on the Bob Ross Senior Center because it's in my district, and then I walk over there and I talk to them and I give them handouts and things like this. And the rest of the subcommittee is doing things like that too. They're just walking in someplace and giving it to them. So yeah, whenever we can help out with something like that, please challenge us.
I think we have like FAQs, right? Didn't we talk about that? We have a page of that where if you hear the same issues coming up, that we just have those answers ready.
mm-hmm. They're currently posted.
So if that's something, as y'all are talking to people, that we could update, and then we could just point people that way too. And make sure city council knows those are there too, so we're all saying the same thing from their staff perspective and all that.
Not only that, but we'll probably touch on this a little bit, and when Siboney gives her report here anyways, but we kind of want to work as like, you know, what is commission business and what is PEO business? You know, what does the whole commission need to respond to, and what do we need to respond to as a subcommittee? So, and how do they fit together so that we're not duplicating efforts in that too? So.
Okay. Do we have any other committee report outs?
Do you have any updates on the dashboard? Or did I miss those last month?
You all have your next meeting on September 15th. We've been working really closely with ITSD on trying to build it out together.
Okay.
And so we'll show you where we've come since y'all's last meeting in that space. And I think it would be important for us to talk about, you know, kind of getting that out in public view within the next month or so. Concurrently, ITSD has let us know that they want to do kind of a whole website refresh for NHSD, which, you know, we all jumped up and down. We were so excited about. So that's great news, but it does mean that we're going to be kind of in a holding pattern with a little bit of a version 1 dashboard, if you will, while that website refresh happens. So we'll share with you information about that and maybe start ideating together about how that website can take shape.
Yeah, I would definitely push back against
And
ITSC.
if you can speak a little louder, just because the mic
Oh,
is
I would
further
just
away
say
from you.
I wouldn't want to hold up the process of a whole website refresh to back up the dashboard.
We agree, and so I think we're on the same page with ITSD on that.
Okay.
So we'll share with you where we're at before we bring it
Because
to
the
the
refresh
commission in
idea is
September.
no, the dashboard is not. So I would just say for ITSD in terms of priorities, that's my opinion.
Very good. So mid-September. Right. Okay. Any other items? If not, then we'll move on to item number 4, which is a briefing on housing base. So I'll turn this over to Sarah.
All right. Next slide. Thank you. All right. So housing base. This is a very exciting tool for us. It is a housing locator tool. So for folks who are looking for housing that is capital A affordable to them, that means it has a public subsidy tied to it. This is a great resource, and not only can they find it, in a way that fits their budget, but also in the part of town they want to live in, with the amenities that they want, close to services that they need. So I won't say more about that because Megan Cano is here to show you what the tool looks like. But just by way of background, this is a tool that was born out of the city's CivTech initiative. That's a partnership between the Office of Innovation and Geekdom to pair government entities like us with startup tech agencies that are full of ideas and capacity to take on challenges. And Megan and Juan at Rise Civic Consulting certainly did that for us. So we are preparing for a soft rollout of this tool in the coming months, and we wanted to give you a little update on it. And I will hand it over to Megan now.
Do you want me to come grab it?
Come on over. We have to switch the display here for just a moment.
Are they going to be able to hear her from back there?
There we go.
I don't know what you say.
Thank you, James. I want your stuff here. There's all kinds of cords.
Dangerous. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be back. We had an opportunity to speak with you guys a little over a year ago and kind of ideate some of the points and features you guys were looking to see from Housing Base. We've worked very closely with the department. It's been a pleasure to work with them. And so I kind of want to set the stage for what Housing Base was meant to do. I always use the story of Joe. Joe is a single dad. He's got a wonderful little girl. She's been accepted to a charter school, but he is also going to school at night. He needs an after-school program. He needs a food pantry service. He needs a support structure. It takes a village, right? And on top of working a full-time job, Joe is going to school and doesn't necessarily have any free time to take the bus or to take his own version of transportation to search for housing all over the city of San Antonio. Do we have a single place he can go to? Do we have a resource that he can find assistance with to find a house or a home that meets his family's needs? That was the vision for Housing Base. So this is the homepage. It was really important to the department and to the city that there wasn't a barrier to using our service. You absolutely can use the full functionality of the system to see all of the available housing that meets that capital A definition without creating an account. There are some additional features that I'll go through that are available if you do create an account, like communication directly with property, asking for tours, and I'll go through all of that with you guys. But we wanted to make sure there was not a barrier to entry. So here you see the map. Right now we've got 169 unique properties. Oops, sorry. We have 169 unique properties inside of the system that have come from a shared data agreement with the city of San Antonio. We have really easy to see. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. We have an informational video that I'm not going to load because I don't want to waste time here. And then we've got latest properties. There is a feature here that property managers and property owners can put in their information directly. So then again, this is just the last version or the last couple of properties that were added. Here
We do have a banner here. Right now, that banner is dedicated to creating your account. But we did save in our communication with NHSD, we did save banner space here for communication purposes. So you guys have been talking a lot about initiatives that you want to get out to the community, a lot of information. This is a perfect opportunity for that, whether it's budget discussions, RFP announcements, available funding, subcommittee engagement opportunities, public meetings, you name it. This is an opportunity to use our tool as a message board for all of your initiatives. Here, San Antonio is a community of neighborhoods and a community of families. And so we knew nobody was going to say, I'm looking for housing in 78212. I'm looking for housing in 78203 or 78207. I'm looking to find housing on the west side near my grandparents or near my aunt and uncle. I want to live in my community that I grew up in. And so here we do have the ability to kind of separate the inventory based off the side of town that a family is looking to live in or is looking. We have our community partners, the City of San Antonio, City of Innovation, obviously NHSD, at CivTech SA. And then here we've got some just customer and some testimonials. The other thing I want to show you really quick, and I won't go through it in too much detail, is this little button here. It's our accessibility menu. Here, if you click User Way, as it's loading, this is a tool that allows you to change the features of the website. So what I mean by that is it allows us to do contrast, it allows us to do an underline, it allows us to highlight, it allows us to change the font, it allows us to do all of this good stuff to make this site more accessible to any individual who's trying to navigate on their behalf. So loading. I'll log in and it'll do it on my login. But so I'll go through all this. I won't go through every single. There's about 15 different things it'll do, and I won't waste time showing all of that. But is it gonna? Okay. So I'm gonna log in as myself as a resident so that you can see what I get to experience.
As you're doing that, where did you say it's pulling housing options from? Is it scraping or is it?
No, we've actually built an individual database on the back end. So there's an independent. Sorry, guys. There's an independent database. Part of the process in working with NHSD was to take all of the different lists of housing stock and housing inventory that existed across. There was like 7 different departments had lists at some point that had, right? And all because they all touch it, right? Housing is such a comprehensive issue, right? We don't want to oversimplify how housing impacts our community. And so they all had a hand in creating these resources for our community. So we took all those lists, we unduplicated them, and then we augmented them, right? So the basic information that you guys get on a 9% application or on a Rono application is number of units, type of unit, address, and all of the important development information. We took that a step further, and we collect over 101 variables per record. And so that's everything from, is there a pantry on site, an after-school program on site, all of the LURA services, and then on top of that, community amenities. And when we say community, we mean external community. So a grocery store in the area, a VIA bus stop, a public park, all of those good things. So you're here. You see these notifications. What are these notifications? This is my caseworker is accessing my account on my behalf. Perhaps to Commissioner Abraham's note, I don't have access to the internet directly on my own. I don't have a smartphone. I don't have access to a tablet. Or I could potentially be digitally illiterate and I need support. We have a user type that allows a case manager, a housing navigator, a city employee, a nonprofit partner agency to sign on my behalf. Now, there's a lot of protection built in there, and I won't go into it in detail, but I do have to grant them access. There is a lot of information and a lot of training we'll be doing to help individuals understand that their information is protected. They are in the driver's seat. They can revoke access at any time to protect the individual. The resident was the priority. So here you just see my caseworker in our testing environment. Our caseworker was accessing my account. Here you see my profile. we wanted to make this really easy. Sorry, I'm going to have to X out of this every time.
Megan, while you're waiting for it to load,
Yeah.
how would they do that? Would they call a phone number to get a hold of somebody if they don't have internet access, and then somebody can help them?
So we have a contact form. We do not have a phone number directly, but we are working with the city to create automated communication structures to allow that. Generally, individuals who are looking for help, that are looking for help with their case manager, the case manager can either revoke the access, the agency can revoke the access, the city can revoke the access, housing base can. We have plenty of stop points that can be of assistance for them directly.
Including that you don't have to create an account at all.
True.
Use the website.
Yeah. Here, we wanted to make it very easy that if, say you've had tremendous success, you've found housing, and you no longer need your account and you don't want your information to be included. Some people are very protective of their information. We want to respect that. They absolutely can delete their account. This is just like Facebook, right? I decided it's not for me anymore. I'm closing my account. We do have the resident questionnaire. The resident questionnaire is basically their information. This is where they can play with their family's details. And what we mean by that is if their income changes, if there's a new member in the family, if grandma and grandpa are now joining the household, if I've gotten a new job and we're now a dual income household, all of this stuff. It also is where they can change their preferences, right? I'm looking for an apartment that has a playground on site. I'm looking for an apartment that has childcare on site. I'm looking for an apartment that is within 1 mile of a public park. Those things are very important to our lifestyle and the family and the home that we're trying to create. So I want to make sure those are preferences on my account. This is all where that would get changed. Here, we do. Yes, ma'am.
I think you mentioned, excuse me, the access to via bus stop. I'm just interested in how transit and public transportation is incorporated into this. And because we now also, in several areas, have microtransit, our microtransit zones, which are virtual stops, and maybe there's a way so that's my second question. And then you showed the community partners, and I was just wondering how entities become community partners. I guess those 3 questions in one.
No problem. I can answer all of them with one answer.
Okay.
So the initial way that we acquired the information around is there a bus stop nearby was we literally visited every single property on foot. So we have a team of data analysts who went and visited every property. So we literally made sure that there was an active via stop with active lines within within one walking block of the property. That's how we checked that box. We wanted to make sure. The next step is working in collaboration with VIA directly so that we have an opportunity to connect APIs directly into your transit system so that we have live routes. We can measure drive time, we can measure travel time, and we can make sure that's in there. And then it's as simple as throwing your logo on the website. That's how we become community partners. But it's truly a data sharing agreement that would be between not only housing base and via Metro, but obviously with the City of San Antonio because this is a City of San Antonio service.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Here you are allowed to save property to your page. So from here, I've gone in and I've done some searches, and you know what? These meet my needs. Again, as a mom of 2, I'm always going to say the playground is my most important feature on a property. A little biased, sorry guys. So here you see, obviously I was attracted as a search to see properties that had playgrounds in them and lovely pictures of them. I've saved them to my account so that I can figure out, do I want to visit this property? Maybe I've already initiated a contact. I'll show you a listings page so that you can see what it's like to contact a property manager directly. But what I can also do here is I can download these properties. This function is primarily, will be more highly utilized by case managers than it will be by residents. If you're a resident and you're managing your own account, it's right there in front of you digitally on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet. You don't necessarily need to download. But say I'm a case manager or a housing navigator doing it on behalf of my client or my resident, downloading and being able to print these PDFs out for my client and saying, here's a resource, I'm connecting you directly, here's the fact sheet on this property, it has all the things you've asked for, here you go, I'm going to make an appointment through the system for you to go tour it, or I'm going to connect you directly with the property manager to get more information. So that's primarily a function that we think caseworkers or housing navigators will use more likely, but it is available to the resident. Again, they can edit their questionnaire. Here is this great function. This is where they can add, revoke, or approve case manager access. Again, to the point of digital access. If a case manager is requesting access to an account for someone who does not have a resource, it's likely going to take place at that nonprofit's offices, in that case manager's office. And so what we will do is assist with what we call two-step verification, where the case manager will actually assist them on a public computer, whether that's in the library, that's in their workforce training centers, that's in our bibliotheques, wherever there's an opportunity to have kind of a protected and a neutral space where both people feel like we can make sure the residents' needs are respected. But this is essentially where it gets. I can also invite a caseworker. So I say this because all of you, I kind of mentioned this earlier, housing is not a one-size-fits-all, and there's a lot of moving parts that touch housing. So I might have multiple case managers. I might have a case manager at the food bank managing my stamp. I might have a caseworker at Haven for Hope who's helping me. I might have a caseworker through Center for Healthcare Services managing my mental health. All of them are going to want to know my housing goals. All of them are going to want to contribute to that success. All of them are going to want to play a role, and this allows them to do that. So they can invite multiple caseworkers to access their account. They can invite multiple caseworkers to participate and actually collaborate through the system.
When you say they as an individual person looking for housing,
Yes.
are there different settings for each of these folks being invited? Whereas, if I'm a social worker versus like a housing navigator, I should have different access, right? Like,
No, they're all the same. So the only functionality here is to look for housing. So you're not looking at changing their personal demographics. You don't have access to their PII. There is no PII collected in here anyway. And so at this point, the only thing that would be occurring inside of Housing Base is the search for housing or the communication with a property manager on behalf of that resident.
but then how would you keep in touch if you're not collecting like an email or a phone number?
We are. Every single caseworker has their own individual account.
I'm saying for the individual looking for, I guess mentally I'm struggling with like who is the target user for this?
So in order for a resident, so the target user is anybody looking for affordable housing. So in order to have an account on the system, you have to have an email account regardless. So even if you don't have access to the internet, your caseworker would assist you with creating an email account.
Right.
They would assist you with setting that up. They would assist you with creating your own account. A social worker can have their own independent account and do a housing search for anyone on their caseload. They just wouldn't save it to that person's profile.
So in that case, you have different customer segments. Like
Absolutely,
you
we have
one
4.
For people who are looking for housing, you have one for folks who are navigating but not looking for housing.
Correct. And then we have a property manager account that allows property managers to manage the property, manage their own data, and enter inventory. And then we have the city persona who is managing a dashboard of all of the metrics collected inside of this tool.
I think if you have a visual on that, I think it will help explain.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Megan, do y'all plan to market this to social workers, case managers?
Yes, so that's actually next week we'll be doing a train the trainer with city staff, and then we already did a couple of beta testing trainings, or not trainings, but beta testing run-throughs with some of the NHSD and DHS affiliated nonprofits. Yeah, we got a lot of feedback actually. So there's been a lot of changes. Like, that's not intuitive. I wouldn't click that button. Or you're missing a button here because that would be a step I would take first. And so there's been a lot of process improvement and user story improvement as a result of that feedback.
I would hope in a formal rollout that there'd be promotion to that target population far and wide.
Absolutely.
And ongoing.
Absolutely.
I think to add to that, a question in terms of rolling out and testing, will you be testing with individuals that have limited knowledge or use, of the internet?
Yes, absolutely. So part of the testing will also include working in public spaces like the public library or the bibliotheques, and that's a partnership with the county. We also have 2 bibliotheques that are located actually inside affordable housing developments, so that's also an opportunity for us because of the neighborhood and the community around. So yes, that's absolutely one of the top priorities to make sure, again, this tool is meant to be incredibly intuitive, and if it's not, we want to make sure that we can make adjustments. This is version 1.
And is there anything with the tool that it's affordable, but is there anything that supports or focuses on other barriers to housing, like felony convictions, those types of?
Absolutely. So let me show you a listings page. So when I mentioned that we talked about 101 variables, we wanted to make sure that we asked the right questions of those properties. Do you have flexibility with evictions? Do you have flexibility with criminal history? Do you have flexibility with breaking up when someone's broken a lease? Right? Those are the big 3. Those are the giant 3 barriers that has someone put in a position where finding their next home could be virtually impossible. Right? So we did ask those questions. Now, we didn't ever want to have the resident have to disclose that information. We never wanted the resident to say, I had an eviction here. I have a criminal history. I broke my lease. We didn't want to put the resident in a position where they felt we were asking too much information that was sensitive information. And more importantly, we had a feeling that if we asked those questions, the chances that we were going to get reliable answers anyway was going to be slim to none. And the whole point of Housing Base is to provide, we say it all the time, real and relevant affordable housing options. And so if they didn't disclose that, we were going to be providing them housing that was useless to them.
Right, yeah.
So we did. So on a listings page, you have very similar to you see on other traditional like Zillow and apartments.com, you see a gallery. Here you can see that I've saved this property to my profile. Housing-based verified means our data specialists have gone out and actually visited this property. We've met with the property manager. We know the unit count. We know the unit size. We know the rents. We know all this information. About the property gives you a range from the lowest 30% unit in a studio to the highest 60% unit in a 3 or 4 plus bedroom. It tells you that they do have 4 plus bedrooms, which is not always available in a lot of our inventory, and it gives you the square footage. This little ticket here tells you that they do accept housing vouchers. And then we go into further data. If there's specifically, are they a veteran preference only, homeless preference? Do they accept all vouchers? We do go into that as well. Here, we've got listing highlights. Near a grocery store, near a health clinic, social services on site. We do have pop-ups. I'm scrolling over them, but we do have pop-ups that define what those mean for the resident. Here, we've got all of the features. These little things are highlighted if this account or if this resident has put this in their questionnaire. And I'll show you you'll see it. I didn't save on mine. This is just a test. But here, I told you, I look for playgrounds, the mom and me. So playground is highlighted. This is meant to make it easier for the resident as they see items come up in their search for me to say, oh, this property has a pool. That's what you're looking for. This property has a playground for your kids. That's something you're also looking for. It helps the resident identify very quickly that this meets the criteria that they've set up. But to your question, flexibility. Now, I didn't highlight flexibility needs on my profile, but this has flexibility with prior evictions within the last 2 years. And this property has flexibility with broken leases within the last 2 years. It does not have flexibility with felony conviction. So it does not appear there. Then we've got social services offered. This has a lot to do with, depending on how the property was funded, some of them have requirements associated, some of them don't. Some of them are self-imposed. But here we break them up between adult, youth, and wellness. Wellness is overarching kind of life skills here. And so you can click on each one of these and see all the services. Here is the big help to most people. As you can see, this property does not have any studio apartments, but we see the unit breakdown, the household income required for for those units, the pricing for those units, and the square footage associated, and the active unit count for that. This really does help the residents see where they would fit. How large is their family? What unit would they need? What's the rent range for that unit? What's the size that they can expect? And does their family income fall into that range? So that's the big ticket item that most people will go straight to, I think, when looking to see if their family qualifies.
Can I ask you on the profiles, does it show if there's a waiting list for the property? Because you can see this and get excited and then there's no units available.
Correct. Yeah, so this, that is going to be an education process. It does not show actively if there's a waiting list, but this is going to be an education process that we work with property managers. The property manager can go in here and change the data as they like. So they can go in and say, I have 2 studios left. They can go in and say, I have 3 one-bedrooms left. They can go in and change this data. They have access. Once they claim, we call it claiming a property. Once they've claimed the property or once they've been assigned that a property and it's been approved, and we do have verification processes to make sure we don't have bad actors in the system, they then can update that information.
I realize this is a work in progress and all, and it looks like a fantastic tool to go beyond Amanda's question, is that the original screen had the blue dots and there was like 169 available. They're not really available.
There's 169 properties, not 169 available. There's 169 properties in the inventory, yeah. Here is where we start to connect the dots for someone who has an account. Oh, I'm sorry, was there another question?
Well, could there be an access to transit drop-down?
Sure.
Access to public transit? Because the other thing I did want to mention is probably some of these properties, like when you go to check them, you might not see a bus stop because they might be in one of our microtransit zones.
Sure.
Where there's virtual stops. I mean, I think we'd love to work to help that because transportation is such a barrier to, it's so expensive.
Yeah, I got the subtle hint. Yeah.
Yes, we would love to have this conversation. We would love to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
There is right now, when you, on the filters, there is close to transit. There is I need public transit as a way to check that box so that all of the ones that we did identify having a bus stop in a very public, in a very open, easy to identify way, they're all included in the system, but we would love to share data so that we can then create a even more sophisticated drop down to make that even easier.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Commissioner
Include the
Kiemer,
trains in that, please.
Yes,
The trains.
absolutely, yes.
I was going to say, Commissioner Kiemer, I'm seeing Hector here in the Apartment Association. I wonder if that education of updating property can be a collaborative effort, like with the Apartment Association, other groups, to regularly keep this information updated, because I think that's going to be a lot of the work, is you want this to be real time for people, to your point.
But that's the issue with any of these types of solutions, is that it's only as good as the data, right? And
Absolutely.
how accurate it is, and that takes a lot of effort on folks'
So we do,
sides,
and
right?
part of
It's
this.
not a knock, it's just realistic.
No, it's realistic, and so that's why we included data maintenance as part of the SaaS agreement. So the annual SaaS agreement for the use of the tool has a data maintenance component in that. Does that mean we're doing data maintenance on a daily basis? No, but that there will be a really concerted effort to make sure, because to Commissioner's point, it is only as good as the data, right? So a lot of that's education, a lot of that's marketing, and then a lot of that's just where the rubber meets the road, right? Here we have the property. This is a feature that is only available if you have an account. Why? Because you can't contact somebody without an email account. It's just kind of the basics. So here I want to ask a question about this property. I want to request a tour. I want to request an application. Here, best contact information, and then you put your information here and you click send. We have created an automated system that notifies us, notifies Housing Base in the city, that a resident has engaged a conversation with Emerald Village. The resident gets a thank you and says, thank you so much. As you can see here, and let me just be clear here. As you can see, there's no contact information for this property, right? We did that so that they could use this form directly. Now, they get a response from us that says, thank you for contacting Emerald Village. Here's the property manager's name. Here's the property's email, not property manager's email, but here's the property email, and here's the property's phone number. They've already freely given us this information, but we want to make sure we provide it to the resident as a backup, right? So then they get they get a thank you. The property manager gets pinged because they actually get the message from the resident. 3 days later, the resident gets an email from us that says, has property so-and-so contacted you?
This is also when you have an email.
Well, they have to have an email to have an account.
Right. That goes back to our digital divide thing. Then the caseworker will get an email. Caseworker gets another email for another person, another thing they have to follow up with.
Well, no. So the caseworker won't contact the caseworker absolutely, if they would like to contact a property manager, if they want to contact a property manager on behalf of a resident, they're absolutely welcome to do that. What we would encourage caseworkers to do, and this is point to the education, is to help break that digital divide and help their client create an email address and create an account and start to help them manage that process of engaging with the system. So at day 3, the resident gets pinged and asked, did you hear back from this property? We get a yes or a no. If we get a no, the property manager gets pinged right there and says, have you contacted so-and-so? We get a yes or a no. We then, depending on that, have created a system at 3, 7, and 14 days to follow up to determine if these contacts were made. We want to ensure that this is more than just I found a property online, that we truly are making those connections. So we will follow up. That is data we're tracking and data we can provide the city. From there, we also do a follow-up at 90 and 180 days to ask a few more questions. Did you get contacted? And we wait we give time, right? Because we're also not assuming that a resident is looking at one property at a time. We're going to assume that the resident is looking at 20 properties at a time, right? So we're not going to send 23-day emails. We're not going to send 27-day emails. We've consolidated that so the resident gets pinged once and can tell us which property has contacted them and which one has not, right? We want to consolidate the information and not be a burden. From there, we ask at 90 days and we ask at 180 days, did you get contacted? Did you visit? Did you find a home? Because we do want to make sure that we close the loop and say, did you locate a place to live? If not, we want to engage with you again and say, how can we be of service? How can we be of better help to assist you in continuing your search? Or maybe you stopped your search and you moved into a house. Maybe you stopped your search and you moved in with family. There's a lot of things, but all of that is very valuable information as we look at the housing resources available in our community and how housing patterns are changing in our community.
They're all good email.
Yes.
So I would think one thing, and I know y'all are startup mode, I would suggest as a feature is there some tools where you can maybe include text info.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have some of this info be delivered via text.
Via text, absolutely.
Like a chat bot, because otherwise, I understand what you're saying about we're breaking cycles through email. That's not how the cycle is going to be broken. That's an infrastructure problem.
This is version 1. We actually already have discussions on version 2 and version 3, and those have text. Those have text features, and then chatbot is version 3. So it's already being planned and developed, but it's a process. And
It's just the folks that we know are most in need, and that overlaps with the folks who don't have access, and we're building a tool and think it's going to work. Like, I just want to manage expectations. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. To be really clear, you guys have Commissioner Abram, you've asked kind of how can PEO help and things of that nature. To be really clear, the best and fastest way for housing base to work and then launch to those next levels where we integrate with transit to be able to predict drive time and commute time, where we can integrate chat box and we can integrate texting features. The fastest way is if property managers adopt this so that we have real-time data, and the best way is for caseworkers, social workers, housing navigators to adopt this so that we see the true value to the partnership. Because by having accurate data, the tool is valuable. By having the individuals who have access to digital resources now assisting those that don't, we have the opportunity to grow the system to take it to the next level where it becomes more valuable and it becomes more useful more quickly.
I get that part, but I don't understand withholding the property manager info if I'm a caseworker and I'm working with someone.
That was a request.
Why do I have to do
We can put it there. That was a request.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, it was a request to manage contacts. So that if we could manage them on a first come first served basis through a contact form, it was a way to manage the potential capacity that we don't necessarily know is coming yet.
Yeah, 'cause that information changes a lot too, right? So I could contact the property manager today and it could be a different person in 3 months.
Absolutely. So every property in here has a property account, like a property email, not an individual person email. It has a property email. So it goes to the leasing staff, it goes to the property manager, it goes to the assistant community manager. And then they all have what we tried to do to be a step ahead was every property, we all know this, has a 1-800 number that you call and you go into this abyss of like, you know, this
Yeah,
Robo-
I'm a renter. I get it. I'm speaking from personal
yeah,
experience too.
right.
So,
So
I
none
understand.
of the numbers in the database that get sent in that email are 1-800 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually numbers to a leasing agent's desk.
Mm-hmm.
We made that a part when we did the data collection process and interviewing them. It actually goes to a property manager or leasing agent's desk. So they're not going to get.
I would emphasize that in your communications with community-based organizations, because serving on some nonprofits that work with people in housing caseworking, that's gold.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not seeing it there doesn't communicate that you have that information.
Sure.
So figuring out how.
We're happy. I mean, it's a button. We can add it. It takes nothing to switch it on and have it be present. It was a request, and we're happy to evaluate it.
Is that the end of the presentation?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry. I'm like, don't want to overwhelm. Sorry.
I have some. I was just trying to wait till the end. Can I tell you thank you? Like, look at me. Thank you. I am beyond excited as someone that sends multiple emails with a lot of links to a lot of places, hoping that it works for the person that's saying, I need a place to stay. Giving them one website that they can go to just cleared up hours of my day, but it excites me because I know I'm sending them somewhere where all of these are affordable. You don't even understand the excitement right now. But on the same token, as someone that does that, as someone that's on the Renters Solution Committee, if I'm telling someone about this, because you mentioned what I wrote down about apartments.com and Zillow, what makes you different from sending someone to apartments.com or to Zillow or to an apartment locator?
Right. So I'll tell you, to an apartment locator, they are the traditional, I sort by price and location. You, on apartments.com, you can click low income, but it doesn't encompass everything. And I'll tell you, the big difference between us, I call it our secret sauce, is being able to search for a home, versus an apartment. And what I mean by that is all of the amenities that are required for your family to feel like a home. So whether that's a park, a playground, a pool, a gym, workforce readiness services, an after-school program, a food pantry on site. I think that was a big distinction for us because those of us in the affordable housing industry, just because you apply for affordable doesn't necessarily mean you're required to provide services on site. You can partner, you can refer your services out, right? That doesn't necessarily meet a family's need because what if they don't have transportation? What if they don't have the funds to access transportation? Or what if they're in limbo with accessing transportation? They need things on site. We make that distinction. This is happening in the facility on site versus this is in your neighborhood, right? So that's what makes us different than Zillow and apartments.com. The other thing is the distinction, right? We are capital A affordable. This means these are properties that have been invested by the city of San Antonio. And as we grow in our releases from beta and version 1 to version 3.6, whatever we call it, right? As we release these different versions, we do have the capability, and I'll kind of show you real quick, to start adding different kinds of housing. You guys have referenced them a couple of times, but we're fully built out to put any kind of housing in here, right? Right now, we have apartments and we have townhomes because those were the traditional tax credit, bond-funded, CDBG and home-supported housing. But we can have single-family homeowners that are certified and are vetted by Opportunity Home SA and put their inventory in there if they want. They're accepting vouchers. We absolutely are built out for that. It'll be a phased approach.
Okay. Love the answer. My second question is, are the property owners or managers, are they given incentives to be within this database?
I am not the one to answer that question.
So incentives, no. But when we provide them incentives to build the development, we can ask at that time, we would like to see, the data maintained in this database.
Is it possible, I'm just gonna ask it because I have no idea, Jamil will check me. When people are applying for the RFPs and they get accepted, can it be put in their contracts or whatever that they're going to be added to this data, like it's an automatic? Because it's affordable housing being built, they should be here. They cannot?
They can.
Oh, they can? Okay.
That's at that point, once they've been selected, then it becomes a contract negotiation. And if the parties, the city and the developer are willing to negotiate and agree to that in their contract, they can do that.
Fabulous, thank you. Here's my next one. What if someone accidentally deletes their account? Now, I know usually before you go to delete, they say, are you sure?
Yes.
And sometimes they'll say, are you sure again? But what if someone, they're really learning how to navigate a website?
We can recover
and
accounts.
they accidentally, so there's a recovery?
We can recover accounts, yes.
Okay. How long does the recovery take? Is it 24, 48, or immediate?
Well, it depends. So they'll have to report that they need, so they'll have to reach out and say that they need help. They also can create a brand new account. Like they could do that immediately if they wanted to. But they also could, so I'll go here. On this homepage, you don't need an account to communicate with us. You do need an email to communicate with us, but you don't need an account. And we have a contact form on every page. It's the bottom of every page. So it doesn't matter where you are on the website. If you go all the way to the bottom, there's a contact page to get to us. So you can say, I messed up, oh my God, and hit send, and we will communicate with you and we will help recover your account.
On these contact pages, can the person expect to hear from someone within 72 hours?
So we're working on that communication structure. I don't want to give you a bad answer, so I'd rather say we're working on that because it's a partnership between Housing Base and the city. So Housing Base, the company, we are handling a lot of technical issues. So if the button stopped working or the button disappeared or my data's gone, right? Like my profile's gone. We will handle a lot of the technical stuff and then we'll partner with the city on any kind of what we call soft stuff like I need a connection to a resource, I need a connection to a city department, I need a connection to a nonprofit. Property manager X just refuses to talk to me, and then there's a partnership there to figure out those communication questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a couple more. So you mentioned earlier, and I don't know if you gave the answer, so forgive me. When someone grants Market, their case manager, access to their account, but they want to revoke it, they don't know how to go online, is there a call number to say, I can't get online, but I want to revoke my case manager's?
Right now, we don't have that. We're gonna that will be again one of those communication partnerships. They obviously can use the contact form and be like, I want my case manager off my account. They
can't get online.
Right. So again, to that point, there is a lot of stuff that we're going to have to work with in terms of partnership with NHSD to figure out who that person is, what that number is, to handle those specific issues where we have a digital divide present.
Okay. When is it supposed to roll out?
We are targeting October.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion that I know you say you've had a lot of the NHSD staffers do the beta. Can you get someone from the community, a couple of people to do it so they can tell you these are the areas that I had issues or I didn't see this asked or listed and that would be important to me?
We did. So we did a couple of public meetings with partners, like so when we did with nonprofit association, we worked with Sarah, we worked with a lot of the folks that are working with incoming folks that are at risk of homelessness or currently experiencing homelessness. We had them test it from a caseworker's perspective, and then we did reach out to the public when we were on site at properties kind of asking, like, if you're thinking about moving, would you use this system? How would you use it? Does this make sense to you? And let them play around with it. So we have had residents in the community just in random places play with it.
Okay.
We've also done that with real estate agents. We've done it with property developers. We've done it with a lot of folks, yeah.
I think I'm done.
That's okay.
You're giving me that look, so
Yeah,
thank you
look-
for
No, not at all.
I want to go ahead and go to Chris real quick. I know we're running really short on time, but Kristen, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just had two questions. The first is, what are the plans to engage stakeholders? You know, I know that you're working with community members that would likely be using this to see if it's working well. But what are the plans to engage the stakeholders that are going to ensure that you've got up-to-date data? So say, the apartment association, owners of affordable housing, to get them and other community agencies to get them to, quote, like, buy into using it. Because the system will only be as good as, I think it was Commissioner Kiemerer said before, is the data that's available.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, Sarah's got some next steps in terms of what we're planning to do for the rollout. But I'll add to that before we get there and say we've already started that process. The data that exists inside the system now only exists because we've had those conversations with stakeholders. We interviewed stakeholders to ensure that the data matched what was actually present in the community. And so we've already had conversations, and a lot of that data wasn't just acquired at the individual level. We were working with regional leadership for property management companies, sitting down with their VPs and saying, you know, we want to make sure that this is of value to you. We want to make sure that you have an opportunity to put your best marketing foot forward. We want to make sure that this really reflects the best perspective or the best view of your asset in the community. And so a lot of them, or I should say everyone that's in the database, everyone that's present or has their inventory in the system has at least been exposed to it, I would probably say no less than 4 or 5 times up until now. But that doesn't mean that there's not more communication, more education, and more engagement to be done.
So the reason I asked that is that, you know, Merced Housing Texas is an owner of affordable housing, and I don't recall participating in this, and maybe our property management agents have shared information about our properties. But we do own properties that are affordable, capital A affordable, but are not LIHTC properties and are not properties that the city has funding in. So I think it'd be important to reach out to the nonprofit affordable housing providers to make sure that all of those properties are captured.
Absolutely.
In this search.
Yeah, Kristen, this is Sarah. Absolutely. So let me touch base with you following this meeting about Merced's properties in particular, and we'll be connecting with the Chodos kind of concurrent to some of the community meetings as well.
Thank you so much.
Great.
And then I think I have one other question. That was it. That was just my second question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kristen. Do we have any other folks who have any comments this time? Doesn't look like it. Yes, sir.
Just one quick thing. Is there any kind of just a tiny little fee that can be applied to this for all the people that would be putting their information in there so that could be extrapolated out and put into the affordable housing?
Basically, like, how are you making money off of this? Kind of.
The financing does not come from the users. We, as a city, want this to be free to people who are looking for housing. So that is why we have made the investment in supporting this tool and, you know, trying to grow it to be a functional resource for folks. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, I guess at this time, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Megan. At this time, we'll go ahead and I think we're going to go ahead and bypass our last item, if that's okay, Siboney, and that way we can get out in time, but I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Oh, we have one nay, but it looks like the ayes have it. But is there any last comment you need?
I just wanted to give a report, but you asked, I was being
I can do a
honest. I think
report. I can do,
y'all win.
if
Do it
people are
super
okay with 5 minutes.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and, do you withdraw the motion? Okay.
You can move
All
on,
right.
that's okay. I was being honest, I wanted to hear it, so that was my vote, but the ayes won, so that's fine.
Okay. We'll go ahead and delay that to the next meeting. Okay, very good. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank y'all for the presentation.
Thank you, Pete.